Dr. Mmatheo Motsisi is a healer, mystic, and medical legal professional whose work bridges ancestral wisdom, spiritual science, and contemporary healing practice. She is an author of Odyssey of a Healer, now released in its expanded and deeply anticipated second edition, a work that traces her journey across continents, dimensions, and ancestral lineages. Drawing from sacred encounters from indigenous elders in Africa, Asia, and America, Dr. Motsisi weaves together cosmology, mysticism, and lived experience to illuminate the hidden architecture of healing. Her writing restores dignity to African natural philosophy while offering a universal invitation to remember our divine origins and reconnect with the Great Mother. Her work has described as courageous, transformative, and genre-defying, a rare blend of scholarship, spiritual testimony, and poetic invocation. Through her teachings, clinical work, and writing, Dr. Motsisi guides others towards remembrance, alignment, and reclamation of their own sacred blueprint. She joins us today to speak about Odyssey of a Healer, second edition, the spiritual evolution behind it, and the deeper truth it reveals about healing, consciousness, and the human journey.
This has been a profound journey, a journey of remembering. In the process of remembering, I had to undergo a process myself of deprogramming, unlearn and relearn. Maybe it's not about really learning because there's nothing new to learn. It was more of remembering. When I actually wrote my Odyssey of a Healer, which was released in 2017, it was the work contributing to my scholarship, and which was not, the dissertation was not published, and I decided to actually release it in a book and publish it. So the second edition, which has been released recently, comes with few changes, because from 2017 to 2026, a lot has happened. I have remembered more. I have actually undergone a process of deprogramming, and I've continued to undergo other ways of self-discovery and knowing. And I just want to read a passage actually from the book, the second edition. There, a journey beyond the veil. You know, the world, how we see it, it's not the full spectrum of everything. What we perceive as reality with our five senses, it's a tiny aspect of true reality. So no wonder I say a journey beyond the veil. Many of us, we're living on the other side, this side of the veil, and some have managed to cross and break through the veil, and now they are living and experiencing no separation between the spiritual realm and the physical realm. I should say, I feel that we all capable of actually living beyond the veil and experiencing the reality of everything. There are journeys that cannot be explained. They can only be lived. This book was born from such a journey, a spiral path of remembering, of unlearning, of surrendering to the sacred unknown. When the first edition of Odyssey of a Healer came into the world, it was an offering poured from a cup of my soul, raw, truthful, and alive with the echoes of the Great Mother. In it, I documented not only my personal pilgrimage, but a deeper calling to give voice to the invisible threads that bind us to the ancient, to Mother Earth, and to one another. To the reader, whom I've actually also dedicated this book to you, the reader, who's going to be reading the words or even interacting with the book itself, to you, the reader, the dreamer, the wanderer, and the healer in hiding, because we all undergoing a process of remembering, and in remembering, we actually healing, self-healing. This book serves as a mirror, a sacred key to unlock what you already carry within you. May these pages stir what is ancient in your blood and alive in your breath. May they remind you that your journey too is holy. May you know, as I now know, you are not lost. You are simply remembering your way home. To you, the reader, I express gratitude to be granted the opportunity to document my experience and share with you. To the healers who have already taken a step of self-healing, self-empowerment, of remembering, of returning to source, of connecting with all there is and Mother Nature. The healers I interacted with in Africa, in India, in China, in South North America, and I never thought I'll enter Europe, but I find myself interacting with some in Europe. So basically, this blue pearl, Mother Earth, I'm grateful that I have had an opportunity to interact with different healers. These healers, I had an extraordinary experience with nature itself. Most of them, these healers that I've interacted with, they've had an extraordinary experience with nature, which led them to a state of wholeness, a state of inner wholeness, of letting go the need of external validation. These healers, furthermore, they practice spiritual disciplines that open pathways for communion with the natural world, often accompanied by a profound sense of peace that was evident both in their world and their way of becoming. These healers I was blessed to interact with, and I continue to do so, spoke of their experiences with such clarity, with such reverence, that the sacredness of Mother Earth as both their initiator and the giver of gifts was unmistakably revealed. They are known by different names. It doesn't mean when we label things because human nature loves to label. So they are named by different names, but I'll just take one name and say a shaman. And I just want to read a portion from page 94 of my book about a shaman. The shaman's journey. It's a path of awakening. It's a path of service. The journey of a shaman is one that transcends time and culture, echoing a universal pattern of transformation that is commonly associated with the hero's journey. Some scholars, Joseph Campbell, actually mentioned that in his book. And some scholars, Roger Walsh, a distinguished scholar, a psychiatry, philosophy, and anthropology, has expanded on the shaman's journey. There are 4 or 5 stages, I should say, that he describes in his book. And I found myself, I was not aware because I was not following a protocol or a pattern or being told by somebody how to go about it. I was actually being guided by a higher being and interacting with others on that level. Those stages are crucial and vital and trace a path from the ordinary world into the mysterious of the spirit and back again. And one becomes forever changed. Once you see the unseen, you cannot choose not to see them. Once you hear the unspoken, you cannot choose now to close your ears and so that you don't hear. Once you've taken a journey and the veil has been lifted, you can't turn back. You need to carry on forward, moving forward. And it's that propelling power that's actually making me to want to share with others who are also on that journey and waking and walking towards the light within them and seeing the reality of everything. The hero's early journey of conventional life is the first part. The first part of conventional life, you find you become actually confused because everyday life follows protocols, follows rules and regulation. You will be told you need to do this, you need to do that, you must do certain rituals, and this is wrong, this is right. That's the conventional life that I had to go through, being confused. Then everything stops making sense, and you realize there's something bigger than your five senses is able to comprehend and process. And once you start questioning, who am I? Because then you realize you are not this flesh only. You are made of mind, body, and spirit. And it's only the physical which has been processing most of the things. And you start questioning, who am I? Why am I here? What's the purpose of actually being here? That's where everything started with me. It was a journey that in many times there's confusion, there's a lot of noises, a lot of information that you gather, but at the end of the day, I had to listen to the inner voice. The hero's conventional life then would lead one to a call to adventure and awakening. It's that call to adventure and awakening that made me to go on a spiritual pilgrimage from, I think, 2014, when I went to India and I went to China, and that was the opening of everything, and I just traveled globally. Why was I traveling? At that time when I was writing the first book, I was searching for self, but I was not aware that the self I was searching for was not scattered out there. The self was always within me, and I needed to go deeper within me. So the reason of the travels also was to see how other healers outside South Africa, Africa, how do they actually interact and honor the sacredness of their calling. That was what actually made me to travel. Then you undergo, in that adventure, you awaken. And as you awaken, you remember. And then you go through initiations. I went through initiations, some with other people assisting me, some directly channeled to me in spirit. So it was a journey that involved this physical and the spiritual realm in a dance where I was initiated. That requires discipline. Then it culminates, the culmination of the quest is what actually was documented in the Odyssey of a Healer, the first one. And I thought it was done. But then you carry on, you mature, you awaken further, you remember further, you discover more, and then you realize that there's a need to actually put meat into the bones of the first edition, which I call this edition, it was the bones, the skeleton. And the Odyssey of a Healer, the second edition, is actually the meat, putting the meat into the skeleton and giving it life. And the final phase, which is a profound phase, when you realize that you are never lost and you one with Source, you actually realize that you have returned and you have revisited Earth once more for a purpose, and you're here to fulfill a sacred mandate. And you rejoice in the return, and you see the need to contribute to the society. The journey beyond the veil, there are 7 paths that I've documented, not based on theory, but based on my own experience. And as a scholar, I've done my own research just to document and see what others have gone through. The 7 parts of human transformation from a pagan and indigenous perspective encompass a holistic approach to spiritual awakening and self-discovery. The first path is the path of awakening. This path represents the awakening of consciousness and recognition of one's spiritual nature. It involves practices such as meditation, vision quest, or dream work to deepen understanding of self and the universe. Meditation, vision quest, and dream work, I continue to actually engage in those activities. The path of awakening will lead to the path of healing, which focuses on restoring balance of the mind, of the body, and spirit. And this path addresses past trauma and fosters holistic well-being through ceremonies, rituals, or energy healing practices. I employ such modalities also in my practice and also in my personal life. The path of connection emphasizes relationship and communion with the spirit world. This path nurtures bonds with the ancestors, the guides, and non-human beings. Embrace all in existence and respect all in existence, because everything in existence serves a purpose. There is no things that are existing and they are not meant to be here. Everything that exists because it serves a divine purpose. So let's all understand that we are all interconnected, and we respect and we honor and we embrace. The path of wisdom. This path is dedicated to the pursuit of knowledge, of insight, and spiritual understanding. An initiate learns from the sacred text. There's acquired knowledge from schools. It's not synonymous to spiritual knowledge. As a scholar, I found that I respect the scholarship, but I found that what you acquire learning from school, academics and all that, it's more of programming to act and behave in a certain way, to serve the system, to serve the institution. When you undergo your spiritual, towards spiritual awakening and knowing of self in that sense, you will find that everything that you've learned, most of the things that you've learned, no longer make sense because they're driven by the limited 5 senses. And science itself, sometimes it's limited in explaining the mystery of nature and the deeper things of nature. I speak as a scholar. I speak as somebody who has undergone that process of learning and programming, and I speak as somebody who has actually crossed over to the other side, walking beyond the veil and seeing beyond the veil, and somebody who has merged the spiritual realm and the physical realm. They are no longer separate, they coexist. The path of transformation focuses on personal growth and evolution For we are all on an ongoing state of knowing self and evolving. Nothing is fixed. We deceive ourselves to resist change. We deceive ourselves to think that things are fixed on stones. Things cannot be changed. We deceive ourselves to stick to old systems that are collapsing. We deceive ourselves entertaining war and all that, and fighting and exercising power and thinking that by actually resisting change and wanting to hold on to collapsing system, it will save. It's no longer saving. It's collapsing. And when we understand that, there's no distraction. It's transformation. And transformation is when that which is no longer saving is transformed to a stage where it embraces the new that we need now to step into another field. The path of service. Here the journey turns outward, where I find myself that I see self in the other, and in healing self, I heal self through the other. Everything that exists reflects me, and you reach out because you are not reaching out to the other, you're actually reaching out to yourself. That's the path of service. The path of service, let me just also expand a bit on the path of service. It's a path of seeing self through seeing self in the other. And whatever you do to the other, you're actually doing it to yourself. And you're serving not because you're under obligation to do so. You're serving because it's an extension of yourself. It's in acts of charity, activism, and community engagement that I've actually also expanded the services of self to the greater whole. And the path of integration. The final path is that of integration, where you integrate everything. And then you realize that when you enter this physical plane, you only identify it with this lump of meat, the physical, which is so demanding. We tend to forget that beyond this lump of flesh, there's the spirit. And we are spirit having a physical experience and not the other way around. May I repeat myself so that it also sink in me that we are spirits having a physical experience and not the other way around. When we shed off the skin, people call it death. It's not death of the spirit, it's death of the body. It's the shedding off of this lump of meat, and the spirit will carry on with its journey. So when one undergoes integration, you come to the realization of I exist in Trinity, mind, body, and spirit, and each and everyone exists in Trinity. And then you realize that the world that we live in cannot be comprehended only by relying on the five senses. Five senses: the eyes, the ears, the mouth, the skin, and the nose. You realize that when everything is shed off, when you die, they also undergo dissolution. And you realize that you need to now tap into your extrasensory so that you can actually understand and interact with the world beyond just the physical, because the world is both spirit and physical. The final path of integration harmonizes all aspects of self and relationships, aligning thoughts, emotions, and actions with one's highest ideals through meditation, ritual, reflection, in order to achieve that inner balance and wholeness. And together, these paths illuminate a universal framework for spiritual exploration, demonstrating that while cultures throughout, no wonder I traveled because I wanted to interact with different cultures. While cultures may differ in expression, the essence of the human journey towards enlightenment, towards self-discovery and interconnectedness remains timeless and shared. Though we look different physically, different languages, occupying different corners of the world, but at the end of the day, the journey, our human journey towards enlightenment, self-discovery, and interconnectedness remains timeless and it's shared. Those who walk this path embrace their role as co-creator. You no longer see yourself as a victim. You no longer see yourself as something to be acted upon. You no longer wait for somebody's mercy. You realize that you are a co-creator because you are the architect of your own reality, and your own reality, you are also a creator. So you partake with the higher being to create the world you want to see manifesting. They become co-creators within the universe, blending unseen energy with the physical form. And this grounded alignment, the universal energy, allows the body to function as a portal. Once you are aligned and in resonance with the vibration of the universe, the body functions as a portal for divine flow. You experience heightened perception, refined discernment, and intentional creation becomes a natural expression of sovereignty. Not because you follow a roadmap, but you function from within. You guided from within because you know thyself as a co-creator and as one with source and as source of all that is. Join me and weave with me the threads of the journey, that I mentioned, the 7 parts, reveal themselves not as a distant teaching to me, that's how I experience them, but as a living current moving through every seeker. They remind us that awakening, healing, connection, wisdom, transformation, service, and integration are not linear steps, but recurring invitations that shape the soul of evolution. And to walk them consciously is to recognize oneself as both a traveler and a creator, held within a universe that responds with intention, alignment, and embodied presence. Each path traveled ignites the process of awakening, the process of healing, of connection, of wisdom, transformation, mastery, integration, and service. And this is not a separate journey, but a facet of a single continuous unfolding. And every experience, every challenge, every encounter reflects the divine essence within, calling us to remember who we truly are. Are we just this lump of meat? Or we are beyond that? Or we part of the greater whole made of Trinity, mind, body, and spirit? Mind, body, and spirit. And physical being part of that. It's the grossness of the spirit, the Lowest vibration, when it's gross, it becomes solidified. And when it's vibrating higher, it becomes a spirit. We remember that every act of courage, compassion, and conscious creation ripples across the web of existence. To journey is to awaken, and to awaken is to align, and to align is to participate consciously in the sacred flow of life. We called during this age, Aquarian age, where we find there's a lot of resistance to change, where we find fear, false evidence appearing real is making others hold on to outdated modes of being and things that are no longer serving. But it's in letting go, in shedding off all that which is no longer serving us, that we allow for that which is presenting itself, awaiting us to embrace it and receive it with our open arms, to actually fall on our lap. So this book, Odyssey of a Healer, the revised version of the first edition, the first edition is the skeleton. The second edition is the meat on the skeleton. And I will recommend and encourage those who are also on a journey of self-discovery, of knowing themselves as one with all that is, of returning, and of wanting to share their own experience with others. This book is a book that I've opened my heart and I've documented my experiences, and with other shamans globally, every corner of this continent that I was privileged and blessed to visit, I've documented the experience. It will be, it's recommended for you to get a copy and read, and maybe one day we can actually sit together and share a cup of tea over your own experience, because we're not separate from each other. My experience, it's a reflection of many out there. The only difference is that I have documented mine to share with others and contribute to the path of enlightenment, transformation, and awakening.